In this tutorial, we will learn more about physics with Xenco Game Studio. When we want to use physics in our project, we need to add collider components to the entities in our scene. And those colliders, they define the shape and the rules of our physics objects and how they should behave in our game world. Now, Xenco defines three main types of collider objects. First off, we have static colliders. Those are the kind of physics objects that don't move at all. So think about walls, floors, really heavy objects. Then we have rigid bodies. Rigid bodies are things like crates, balls, barrels. And these are objects that are affected by other forces, such as gravity, or objects that collide with each other and should move around in the world. And lastly, we have another special type, which is the character collider. And these are the kind of colliders that you attach normally to playable characters. If you want to play around with some of the physics of Xenco Game Studio yourself, you can create a new project from scratch and then in the project selection window, go to New Project, Samples, and then select the Physics project. This will create a sample physics project with various different playable scenes that contain various physics constraints, raycasting, and character controllers. In the scene here in front of me, I have created three different spheres. Or actually, they're rather identical, except for the difference that they each have a different physics component. The first one has a static collider component. The second one has a rigid body component. And the third one has a character component. If we want to see what the actual physics of these three objects are, then we can go to the top here and click on Grid and Gizmo options. And then down here we have all these checkboxes which allows us to debug certain views of our game scene. And if we scroll down, we have this physics option here. And if we select that, we can debug the physics inside our current selected scene. And as you can see now the three different collider types that Xenco supports. So to the left, the static, which is always red. In the middle, we have the rigid bodies, which are green. And to the right, we have the character controllers, which in Game Studio are pink. And if we would play the game, we would see it would be white. Now, if we wanted to see this during our game, then we can do this by creating a script that will allow us to debug or toggle the physics. If you're not a coder, don't worry, we have an example script right for you to use. Simply click on Add Asset in your Asset view, and then scroll down to Debug Physics Shapes. Just create the script as it is, and then attach it to an entity in your scene. Here I'm going to say debug physics, and that's the script that we've just created. And if we would now launch the game, you would see that by default, you do not see any of those physics shapes, but if we hold down left Control, left Shift, and the P key, then we can turn on the debug physics mode. Note that the character controller during runtime is white instead of pink. We can toggle that off again by using the same key combination. In the next tutorial, we'll have a look at the first collider type, which is the static collider.